Hello, viewers. I'm SB, and welcome back to Last Call BBS. Where, look, here's the here's the deal. I'm going to stop explaining myself to you. We're going to finish Dungeons and Diagrams. I think I played a little bit off camera just because I was having a rough one with my medical condition, and I needed something to distract me. And I really like this game a lot, so I did like a handful of puzzles. Doing so did unlock a handymate entry. We'll read it when we're finished. At this point, I should just bolt the rest of them, right? At this point, I feel like I should just bolt the rest of them. So, puzzles. So we know that this treasure room obviously is not in this column, and it's pretty confined down here as well. Technically, oh no, it cannot be in this column because this tile can't be an open space. So I guess we get the treasure room immediately, basically for free, which is cool. We know that the entrance to this treasure room is not in this row, I think, because the only way that would work is for there to be like, it would have to be like that, right? But that doesn't leave enough tiles in the 4 row to be walls. So we know that's a wall. This also has to be a wall, right? We can't have that space be open with the monster right there. This space also has to be a wall, incidentally. In fact, this whole column has to be walls at that point. This also has to be a wall. There's no way for the hallway to run out if this is open. And I guess, again, we do know this whole column is walls. Okay. So this space is open then, because we have all of the walls accounted for here. So we know all of those are closed and all of these are open. Gives us a little bit of information about this monstrous little satyr. And then I guess we actually have this column figured out too. A lot of this one's going down pretty quickly. We know that's a wall, and as such, that's a wall to avoid creating dead ends. This puzzle, this format of puzzles, Dungeons and Diagrams as a whole, not the Ashen Remnant specifically, it's just like it's got just the right mix of like enough to think about, but also a comprehensible simplicity that my brain is just cutting through these, and it feels super satisfying. I imagine for people who enjoy doing, a couple of Sudokus every day or something, it's probably a very similar kind of vibe. This has to be a wall, because if it were open, it would require that be true, but we can only have one more open space in the 6th row, right? So then we know that, and that means we know that, and that means we know this. Look at all the stuff we know. Look at all of the magical things we understand. This has to be open to avoid creating weird problems. Then we just have a tiny little bit of corner left here. So one more space in this column is open. If one of these 3 tiles has to be open, it's got to be this one to avoid creating a dead end. Which tells us that this is a wall. No, that can't be right. Does it tell us that that's a wall? There has to be one more wall. Oh, I think I must have screwed up somewhere. Yeah. Because there's no way for one of these, our current understanding of this column having one more wall in it, there's no way to create, like, obviously that's a problem, but it's also a problem in the other direction. So I goofed up somewhere down here. Let's continue working bits of the puzzle around that. We might be able to solve that still. So we have 3 tiles here that are walls. One opening in this column. No, sorry, 2 more tiles here that are walls. 2 of these tiles are walls. Well, sorry, I don't know that. 2 of these 4 tiles are walls. And I'm still fairly confident about a lot of this. I think this part is the part where I don't necessarily trust the information. My guess is we're going to get through this, and then we're going to be able to correct it by hand. I mean, Or we're going to be able to correct it, sorry, obviously by hand, on account of that's how the puzzle is done. But I mean by just like looking at it, we'll be able to tell what's wrong. So 2 in these 4, 2 in those 4, 1 here, 1 here. I mean, it's got to be that, right? Because otherwise, like, this is a problem for a lot of reasons. And they have to be in the same row. So that is a problem. So this is where it's something like this is wrong. Which is, how would we resolve that? Oh, actually, this is not even valid. All right, you know what? Let me... Maybe the flaw in that one is a little bit further back than I realized. Okay, so we know that the treasure room can't be in this row. We'll just work it fresh here. So yeah, it's not in this row, so it must be in 3 of these 4 rows, necessarily these 2. If this is the case, obviously this can't be the exit to the treasure room because we would have to dead end. So that is for sure a wall. That being a wall means this is for sure the treasure room. That being the case, does not, okay, here's something interesting, does not necessarily make this a wall, right? Or no, it does. It doesn't because of the treasure room by itself. This could be an exit, but if this is an exit, we also have to have open tiles that allow us to like leave the treasure room, and that can't be the case because this row is only allowed to have 1 more open space in it. So we do know that. If we know that, we also know this, because there'd be no way to access the Seder from that side, and then we know all of these have to be wall to maintain the sanctity of the treasure room rules. Okay, that stuff I'm all very confident of. This is obviously a wall, so this is obviously an open space, so this is obviously a wall. That makes all of that open, which means we have to enclose the treasure room now. That makes all of this open, which closes that and that. Is this puzzle just very sneaky? Possibly. This is a wall for sure. There's 1 more wall in this row, and it has to be here. So we end up with that situation. There can only be 1 break, and it's going to have to be there in that row. So we get back to this situation very quickly, which looks familiar, and that does make me nervous. If you're asking, hey, Samhain, does that make you nervous? Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Oh, I guess I made this assumption really quickly last time, didn't I? But that's not necessarily the case. This is totally valid. This does not create a dead end as long as the hallway goes down over here. So hold on, let's not make an assumption at all. Actually, this is also totally valid. Yeah, all right, this is where I screwed up. It was this row that was bad. Okay. So, how do we work from here? 1 of these 2 is open to allow the hallway to continue to the left, meaning that is definitely a wall. What else do we get? So 2 of these 4... It is possibly this. It totally could be this, and then the hallway runs out through here. And, in fact, the existence of the 3 makes that seem fairly likely, although it is still... We have enough open space in this row for that to be the case. So I can't call anything there just yet. Yeah, we have exactly the same amount of open space in both of these. Oh, I guess we know that. That's probably significant. And that makes the thing I just said true. I was already treating this space as though it had a wall in it. So we know this. That being the case, it's either both of these or this and 1 of these. Yeah, unfortunately, that's actually not information. Not yet. It's data, but it's not information. So two of these three tiles, or two of these four tiles, two of these three tiles. Actually, this can't be a wall. What am I talking about? This has to be the wall here to avoid making that a dead end. And if that's the case, that tells us some things for sure. So, if we know that these can't both be walls. So, but we also know that they can't both be open. So exactly one of these two tiles is a wall. Exactly one of these two tiles is a wall. That's still not actually helpful, though. Over here, these totally could both be, yeah, in the 4 row, there's no such restriction. So I feel pretty confident that this row is not these two, but it still does have 2 possibilities. I guess both of those possibilities contain this. We figured out through hard guess and check that these 2 positions being walls doesn't work. So that does give us this column, which tells us precious little. Well, okay, so we know this has to be open because otherwise it would create a dead end there. If the things we just determined are true, those are walls. So this is open, so these are walls. And then that puts the, yep, okay. That row. Very easy when you're moving quickly to make an error like that that seems very sensible when you make it. The Crypt of the Autumn King. This is a king that is much more after my heart than the Summer King. Probably, you know, either to eat it or to place it within his own ribcage in a cruel mockery of life. Both cool, both very like chill and cool things to do. I don't want to sound judgmental. Okay, so what do we know? We have a lot of rows here where there is only one tile that's going to be open. Well, yeah, okay, we have a couple of rows where there's only one tile that's going to be open, and a couple of rows where that might be the case, depending on how the areas around the skeletons are shaped. Gosh, without a treasure room to start with, or like a really obvious... Well, okay, I guess this is a wall for sure, right? Because if this were going to be open, the only way to connect this quote-unquote dead end to the rest of the hallway would be through this tile, which would necessarily have to be a wall. So that's definitely a wall. If that's a wall... no, this one doesn't necessarily have to be a wall because this could be the case, right? And the hallway goes like that. So... This is one of the 2 wall tiles in this row, though. That does tell us something interesting. So there's only one other wall tile in this row, and it must be in one of these 2 positions. So we know this is open, and we also know that this is a wall because the entrance to this skeleton's area is left or right. That's something we can start with. We don't have enough information to make a guess at this skeleton's, or rather, we absolutely have enough information to make a guess. We will not make a guess. We don't have enough information to do anything useful about this skeleton. I can't believe y'all would even suggest that. How dare you? The skeleton over here... No, right. It is not the case that this wall is necessarily... or this corner is necessarily wall, because this is a totally valid formulation. That would be a really easy assumption to make. And we must be very wary of easy assumptions. In puzzles, as in the rest of your life. There are a lot of things, actually, that are true in puzzles and equally true in the rest of your life. So if this is a wall, then it makes this also a wall. We're actually fine with that. Oh, I guess another thing we can say for sure is that these 2 spaces are open. They must be. So there are 2 open spaces in this row. One of which is going to be feeding the hallway into the northern part of the puzzle from down here. I mean, they both could effectively be doing that, though, right? It could be this, and then wall off here. This is how the skeleton connects, and the other skeleton connects up there. So yeah, a lot of places where we almost have an answer, like very nearly. And I did have a little bit of a look at Chip Wizard. We're gonna get back to Chip Wizard. We're gonna get back to that to the food court. That stuff is all later stuff because I have not had the time that I would like to dig into it all. But I will over this weekend, so that'll be good Monday stuff or Tuesday stuff at the very least. There are 5 blocks in this column. Ugh, that's not really useful yet either. All right, we have 2 openings here plus 1 wall already drawn. So we have 4 walls remaining in a column that has 5 open spaces. Which means that this formulation is obviously impossible. So this one, at the very least, it does have to be a wall. There can only be 1 more open space in this column. Actually, for this row, the open space has to be here, right? Because an open space in any other tile surrounded completely by walls would be a dead end. So yeah, I think we get that. And if that's the case, we know this is also a wall. We know this is open, but we don't know anything about where it goes after that. This could be the opening, right? This can't be the opening, though. And so we know one of these 2 is open, which means this is definitely a wall. And one of these 2, then, is open, and one of them is a wall. Because the hallway has to get in, which means this is definitely a wall. Yeah, cool. The 1-2-2-2 formation around the center of this map is going to be like very critically important to figuring this out. You're going to have to use that negative space. So if this runs out here, I mean, that's very convenient in the sense that it already gives us a connection up to there. If it runs out here instead, it does connect another skeleton right away. And then there is... Oh, well, actually, because there's only 1 wall here, yeah, this has to be right. Right? Because it is then necessarily the case that this is a wall and this is a wall to satisfy those columns. And we couldn't do that in the other row. Okay, that's like actually kind of a lot of routing information. So we know this is a wall, must be. And it still could be the case that, well, yeah, if this is a wall, it still could absolutely be the case that this is one of those just like circle around an interior wall kind of situations. And then this is closed and this skeleton is accessed from the top. Totally viable. This column has 3 walls in it already, so 2 of the remaining tiles are walls, and we know this one isn't one of them, so yeah, okay, that makes sense. Then that's a wall, then that's open, so that's a wall. There we go. That pretty well broke it, actually. You are a wall for sure. One of these 2, and it can't be this one, obviously. And then, yeah. Look how excited the Autumn King is. He's like, you did such a great job building my dungeon, and I didn't even agree to pay you beforehand. Oops, that's an error on my part. Don't know what I was thinking. Okay, the Oblivion Horde. These are pretty good mimics. One thing that I do not love about them is the lack of a tongue. In my expectation of the appearance of a mimic, the tongue is very, very prominent. But pixel art of a certain resolution, right? It's also, I assume, why they have little rectangular teeth instead of sharper teeth, and why there's no drool. Also, I think, very important to the conception, the visual conception of a mimic. This is a tough one to even start. Just looking at this, I really don't have a good sense of what to do with it. So we have a row adjacent to two of the mimics where there are exactly 2 breaks in the wall. You can sort of look at the way the numbers are shaped and kind of imagine how the passages have to fit together. So like, okay, we know this is not the case, right? Because then this row doesn't work at all. But we can't say this with any degree of confidence either, because it absolutely could be the case that it's something like, right, not that exactly, obviously, but like if we do, what, 3 walls, like this is totally a viable solution, right? And there's a couple of, there's the mirror of that is also live, and yeah, and it can be the case. There's a way to arrange this so that these are, yeah, the entrances can really be any combination of 3 tiles apart. So we need more information before we can make a move on the bottom. I think. I'm pretty sure. Where do we find our initial crack here? Okay, how about this row? In this row, the 5 wall tiles are going to have to be contiguous, right? Because, I mean, obviously this is unacceptable. You can't have a gap of 1 in them. You can't have a gap of 2 in them. But a gap of 3 is legal. Yeah, and would still allow a lot of solutions. Shoot. No, it is not necessarily the case that the wall tiles are contiguous. Damn it. Well, oh no, sorry. It still is, because if you do a gap of 3 to allow this kind of shape, you can't actually fit 5 wall tiles. So yeah, I think the wall tiles do have to be contiguous. There are 2 different contiguous arrangements of 5 wall tiles, this and this, and they both have these 4 tiles in common. So I think we can safely place these 4 walls. That seems right. One of these 2 monsters has its opening in this row, the other one has its opening in the next row. And then we can figure a lot about sort of like the general shape of this, right? There's going to be a hallway that leads from the north side of the puzzle from each of these monsters into the middle area of the puzzle, cutting through this row. Those are the 2 gaps. But we cannot make much of a guess as to where those gaps will be. Yeah, because what's going to happen, right, is that the monster that has the entrance to its side is going to have a wall right in front of it, one of the 2 walls. It's going to be like this. And then the other wall can be anywhere, and the 2 gaps in this row are the spaces around that wall. Right? It's going to do this. So we're very close to being able to use that information, but we just can't. It could dial to almost literally anywhere in the row. I guess though we can do some things with it, right? Like no, not really. I was gonna say we can like probably call the edges, but no, we can't because. Sorry, that is totally a valid formulation. So one of the edges of this could be a block. Literally every tile in this row is currently could be and could not be. Well, shit, friends. Shit and also crap. So we got something. We got a little bit to work with. We can't necessarily guess very much about this column, even though we are really close to knowing how it works. Because, well, Okay, except there can only be one other wall tile in this column, right? Since we know approximately how this is going to work, we know that the wall tile in this column... No, shit. I was about to say we could get some information, but like, you know, this is valid and it would open up this one for us. But there's no place where we can tell for sure that there's no place where it's like, well, we know the wall in this column is going to be here or here, because these both could be open, right? These both could be the openings. So it is likely that we have a pretty long hallway in this column, but we cannot yet say. We have a lot of sort of soft information here, though. A lot of things that once we start to fill in will make the pieces fall into place a little bit more quickly. The 6. So there's only 2 crossovers from the west side of the board to the east side of the board. But okay, I was about to say we have no information about where those are. But that's not 100% true, right? Because we know that they're not here or here. Because there's not enough space in these rows to allow a pass-through, which would require at least 3 open spaces. So yeah, we can say with some confidence that these 2 tiles are walls. I don't think that helps us very much, but it is true. Yeah, it narrows things somewhat. But it's still the case that like this could run through, the path could run through under here, or this could be a wall. Yeah. It's true, but it's not useful necessarily. Well, I mean, anything that lets you draw with certainty on the map, I guess, is useful. And it's true as well that this one could be a pass under, or it could have a wall under it. What else can we know? We have 5 tiles in this column. This one row is interesting. It's a lot less useful than a 7 would be, though. Yeah, I don't know if we can do anything with this right now. So I'm trying to think. So there's only one wall here. We have a puzzle. We have a route coming up from each corner, basically, into sort of the central area of the puzzle. But gosh, we really don't know much more than that. Let's move on and come back. I do wish that it was clearer when a puzzle has some information on it. But for right now, we'll move on and come back. Okay, so we know we have ourselves a little bit of treasure room information immediately with the 6 walls. The Minotaur is actually defending the treasure in some way, which is quite unusual. I guess we know this is true as well, because there's not enough space. Well, but this is like a valid... Right, that's a valid build. So we don't actually know that this top row is not part of the treasure room. In fact, if the bottom row is part of the treasure room, well, I guess it doesn't tell us that much that this is not a valid layout, because like this row could still be, yeah. So both rows still have the capacity to be and not be part of the treasure room for the moment. This row's got exactly one wall tile, which means that it is probably not. This is probably where the Minotaur's hallway comes from, but we can't say for certain. Yeah, totally could. Totally could. Grr. Did you know that as you advance in a puzzle game, the puzzles often become more difficult? It's true. It's hard to believe, but it's true. I definitely feel like that is where we are right now. Okay, actually, hold on. This column tells us that the treasure room is here because there can only be one wall in that column. Okay, so that's useful. That is information right away. The break in the treasure room could be on the west edge. Totally could be. So we can't guarantee that these are walls. Can't guarantee that these are walls. This absolutely could be a wall. I guess we know that's open. That's something. And then that means we know this is a wall. And I guess we know this isn't a wall, right? Because this is not a space that can be open unless this space is open. So we know that's open. The other wall then has to be here to avoid creating a 2x2, and that means that's the entrance to the treasure room. That gives us all of that. Okay, actually pretty useful. We know this is open. Can't really guess anything more than that for the moment, though. Oh, I guess, given the shape of this, the other one open space in this column must be a way for the hallway from the right side to let out into the left side. So it definitely can't be here. It could be any of these spaces, though, right? Because it could be here and then dead end, like the Minotaur's just in a one space dead end. Or it could be down here, and yeah, there's still a lot of possibilities, actually. Okay, but that's information. That's good stuff. 2 more walls in this column. This is viable. That's not, though. We know that's a wall. Yeah, we don't know anything more than that, I don't think. Because this could be, right, like that's fine. So yeah, all of these tiles are still potentially open. No, sorry, not this one. Yeah, that wouldn't work. So okay, one of these 2 tiles is open, and which one of these is the wall is going to tell us which one of those is the wall, or vice versa. Yeah. Okay. What else can we get? What else can we get from the information that we just pulled? There's not a lot of walls in the top left corner, but there is a 6 column. So how much use can we make of that? It would help so much if we knew whether or not this was the wall in this column. Okay, so we know exactly one of these 2 is a wall, which means that 2 of these 3 are walls. No, it's not quite useful. All right, so let's talk about this. There is 1 more wall in each of these half rows. There are 2 more walls in this half row and 1 wall in this half row. Nearly every tile in this column is a wall. So let's just start figuring this out. I guess we know these are open. No, sorry. We know, like, both of these wall positions would be problematic. These are open spaces, for sure. The wall in this thing is going to be creating a corner. So that gives us one of the open spaces in the 6 column right now. Is it necessarily the case that this is open? Yes, right? Because this being the only wall in this row creates a serious issue. That must be open, and this column has to look like that, which gives us a lot of information. Then this has to be a wall, and that's open, and that's open. These are all open, which makes that a wall, which makes that open. All of that is open, so that's a wall. Yeah, that was like really useful, actually. And then there is exactly one wall here, so that's how that's shaped. Okay, thank you, little corner. That was a lifesaver. The engine of the Golemmancer. Where is the engine part? I do not actually see an engine. Is this going to turn out to just be like one hallway that runs past all of these in a circle? It seems at least possible, right? Okay. Where are we at with... There are 5 tiles left in this row, this column, and 4 of them are walls. What does it tell us? Precious little, I think? The fact that there's already an opening in the column makes it trickier to figure out where the other opening must be, because we have sort of like a pressure release over here. Yeah, that's tough. Okay, what else? This is an opening. Yeah, it's fine if this is open, and it's fine if this is closed, at least as far as we're aware. Oh, if this is closed, it is the last wall in both this row and this column, which is interesting. It can't be the last wall in this column, in this row. The last wall in this row is in one of these 2 spaces. This is definitely a wall. This is definitely open, and in fact, that is also open. Okay. That's something. That is something. So we know there has to be a hallway descending down from the north toward this golem in one of these 2 columns. Something to work with. So this could be the dead end for the golem, or could be a wall, and then obviously, like any of these really could be a separator. This column only has 1 wall left, which is sort of interesting. Yeah, so we're going to have a hard time moving. No, we're going to have a really easy time. Never mind. I keep reversing walls and openings in my head. I was going to say the 3 spaces that are open on this column actually is kind of interesting because of the fact that so much of this column is empty. How is it going to be the case? It's going to be something like this formation, right? That's the way it has to look. And you can put that wall in a couple of different places. But it can't be here, right? No, it totally can. That works really well, actually. I was afraid of like potentially creating a dead end or like making it so that the spaces don't quite shape up right. But yeah, that totally works. And that confirms that there is a valid formulation of the 5 walls that leads to this space being open, and one that leads to this space being closed as well. So the actual answer is we just don't have enough information yet. Okay, we have 5 spaces left in this row, 4 of which are walls. So if this is open, which is to say that's the way down to the golem, then this is closed off completely, which is 100% valid. Yeah, that is totally a way things can be. Sorry, we know that's a wall. if this is closed, that actually would make things much more complicated because there's a lot of spaces over here that could be the opening. I guess we know that's a wall. I can go ahead and fill that in right now to avoid the 2x2. If that's a wall, it does not necessarily make this open because, again, we have a valid dead end here. We are allowed to dead end there. So if this is closed and that's closed, we have one more gap here, but because we have a valid dead end in this position, the gap can be anywhere, which is tough to deal with. It is entirely possible for this monster to have the opening that leads to it on any one of its 3 adjacencies, I think. It's not what you want to hear, but I do believe it's the case. Gosh, I thought we were going to bolt through this in like maybe 1.5 episodes. Look at the time it's taking me per puzzle at this point. We have a lot of Dungeons and Diagrams remaining. Part of me is very excited about that. I hope that it's exciting to y'all as well. Okay. If this is the wall in this column, if it's next to this golem, we have breaks here. This is fine because the hall, it's okay for that to dead end. And then 2 of these are connected. Yeah, that works just fine, right? That's totally acceptable. Yeah, it really is the case that the wall in this column is potentially in any of those spaces. And I'm really worried about the rows like these where I feel like we have no information at all. Okay, what about this? So at most, one of these 2 spaces is a wall. They could both be walls. That leaves either 1 or 2 walls left for the corner over here, which is a really awkward number. Yeah, that's a bummer. Because I think that means every space here is potentially either thing. Sigh. There's a lot of that going around. A lot of that, every space here could be either of the things. We have a little bit of a hook here, which makes me a little bit more reluctant, to jump off of this puzzle and go back to the other one that we were working on. Because I feel close. I feel close to cracking it. And I know a thing or two about being close to cracking. All right, 3 of these 4 spaces are walls. Sorry, 3 of these 4 spaces are walls. Can we make anything of that? As long as it's possible for this to be an opening. Any arrangement like this is fully valid, right? The break from the right hallway into the left part of the puzzle could be anywhere. Actually, no. This is fine if that's a wall, but if this space is open, then it restricts the opening to being in a position that's already... Yeah, because, like... If the wall's here, that's a problem, right? If the wall's here, that's a problem. So there is actually some restriction going on. Let's see if we can work out a rule for this restriction that would actually let us draw anything, though. So if this is closed, it allows the opening in this row to be anywhere. If this is wall, are there certain tiles that... No, the fact that if this is open, every tile in this row in this column can be both open and closed is going to prevent us from figuring anything out. Because the only way we could make a deduction here is if there was some tile that was forced into one state in both cases, right? Sadly, I don't believe that is so. If this is... Okay, how about this? If this is open, actually, that has to be wall. If this is wall... These are all open. That's all wall. That's open. Yeah, that's totally... crud. That's totally viable. Okay. We have 6 tiles here, 3 of which are walls, and it could absolutely be just anything. It's a real bummer that we can't figure out this Golem's deal. It's actually making things very complicated. That said, it's such an obvious place of big information that I can totally see it being... I can totally see it being a thing that is not figurable yet. Once we solve it, it's going to put like a very serious crack in the whole information structure here. And again, as a person who knows things about cracks developing in an information structure, do we have a situation here that allows us to develop any contingent information? Like, we know if this is open, then that's open, and this stuff's all closed. If this is open and that's closed, are any of these tiles still necessarily closed? It would be like this. And then these all feel like totally valid routes upward. Yeah, it wouldn't even lock the rest of the column to being walls. 4 is like a very awkward number to divine any information from. Oh, hold on. This is interesting. So in this row, if it is the case that this is open and these are both walls, then we have one more wall. That's like a formation like this, right? And it could be that, or it could be that with a wall, with the one wall from this row breaking it up. If only one of these is a wall, then this area has 2 dots in it, which can't work, right? Because, like, you're going to create a 2x2 or a dead end, no matter how you arrange that. This area has to be 3 dots. Well, okay, hold on. We are somewhat complicated by the fact that that's a valid layout, I guess, right? But I think the point I'm making is that in every case, this is closed. I don't think this is a valid open space. Yeah, because you could have 3 like this, or if this is wall. Yeah, I think no matter what, this has to be a wall. I don't think this is a valid opening. If this is open, we have to do 3 walls over here, and like that's a problem, and that's a problem, and that's a problem. I mean, obviously that's bad. Sorry, you end up with this for sure. And yeah, okay. So this is definitely a wall, and that is definitely all open, and that is actual information. Okay, so now we know that there are 2 walls and 3 open tiles remaining in this row, and there's a bunch of different ways those could be positioned. But in every one of them, the 3 open spaces have to be contiguous. Right? Yes, which means this is definitely open. Sadly, this is still viable, so we don't know for sure which side is the open side for this guy, but that's something. Actually, it does tell us something else. Wherever the 3 dots are, there has to be a wall at the midpoint of them. Right? Yeah, so I think what we're learning is that this is impossible. This space has to be open because we have to have a wall for these dots. So I think that's the case. And then once that's the case, we know these 2 are both dots. The wall could be in either space, but the wall in this row is in one of these 2 spaces to serve as a break in the middle of those 3 dots, which means we can determine some more open here. And if those dots are real, then no, that doesn't give us the actual location of the wall, because like this is valid and so is the opposite, right? Yeah. So that's something though. That's useful. All right. So what else can we make of that? We know that this tile must also be open. Yeah, because like, yes, this tile must be open. That's how we reach that. We don't know about this tile because whether this is a wall or not is going to inform that significantly. If this is a wall, it's the only wall in this column. If it's not a wall, then the wall in this column is like next to it. Yeah, necessarily, right? One of these 2 tiles does have to be the wall. So if that's the case, then we know these are open. Yeah. Okay. So this is telling us that the opening to this golem is on this side, right? Because now there's so little open space left in this column. Yeah. The walls in the 5 column are closed tight against the 3 dots. So we know that. Okay. Cool. Deduction. Deduction is fun. We know all this now. What else? What else know we? Okay, so there's 2 tiles left, 2 wall tiles left in these 3 spaces, and the other one is the way that the southern hallway connects to the northern area, which we can actually get some information on here, right? Because there's only 1 wall tile in this area. So since there's only one break coming up, that wall tile can't be here. And it can't be here because that would create a dead end. So the wall tile's here. These are both open, and that tells us that this is where that hallway is. Or perhaps not, because that makes things impossible. No, wait, that's fine, actually. Yeah, that, I think, has solved the puzzle. Wait, this is not right. Yeah, I goofed somewhere. Shoot. So this row is not enough walls, and this column is not enough walls. How did I do this? How did I get so close and yet to be so far? So I'm looking at this and trying to find the adjustment, right? I need to gain a wall in this row and gain a wall in this column, but unfortunately, the intersection of that row and column is already a wall. So that's a wall, probably. And then I screwed up here somewhere. I need to shift 1 wall from this side to that side. Yeah, that's it. Okay. I done goofed, but we got there eventually. 5 puzzles in an hour, assuming I can put this one back together. These have gotten more difficult. I appreciate it. Okay, let's try to sort this. So, This column has one more wall in it. We know that we don't know where that is. It could be here, it could be there, it could be neither. That tells us that at least one of these two tiles is not a wall, which I guess is interesting. But it's not a thing we can write down. So, okay, I guess we know this is open then, right? Because in this row, the only wall positions are adjacent to one of the treasure boxes and at the point where, like, there's a wall here that connects to a wall above it, and that creates the funnel. So yeah, if this space can't also have a wall above it because there aren't enough wall tiles left for the row or the column, then this is open. That doesn't tell us this is open because it totally could be a run under situation. But that's one more thing we can write down. What else? Could this be open while that is closed? No, right? Ooh, I'm a little shakier on that. Is that the case? What do we know about this route? Let me rededuce here. We know that there is a path up. There are blocks. There are walls in this row. So we know that the hallway is divided. And thus, each side of the hallway going up has to have a vertical path of at least 2 spaces, right? It could be a 3 space like this. It could be like a Tetris Z shape like that. But it is the case that if this tile is open, it has another tile adjacent to it that's open. No, sorry, this is not valid because there's only space for 2 hallways. They both have to be 1x3s. So there's no way that this space is a wall then. The fact that there's only one wall left in this column is actually helpful. It is actually doing work. Unfortunately, that doesn't give us anything. Same deal here. This could absolutely be a run under. Well, no, actually it can't, right? Can this be a wall? It would have to be the case that, like, so we'd have to have this running under all the way to there, or we'd have to have this running under all the way to here. No, this is an opening. And if this is an opening, so is that. Okay, that's information. That's real information. If that's the case, that does tell us where the walls are here, right? They must be here. There's no way to break this up otherwise that leads to the correct distribution of wall tiles and open tiles. And if that's the case, then we know this is open and these are all walls. And if that's the case, we also know this is open. Cool. A thing we do not know, I suppose, is whether there is one hallway or 2 hallways. Well, I guess it's not even going to look like hallways, right? No, it is. It's 2 hallways. No, they have to connect somewhere in the middle. The whole thing has to connect somewhere in the middle. And it absolutely could be this row, right? Actually, how is the bottom going to connect to the top? How does this work? So there's exactly one wall somewhere here. The problem is that there's so little known about this row. Yeah, that's really tricky. There's so little known about this row that it makes it really hard to predict the shape of this row. Oh, I guess actually, hold on. We got information there that I should look at. So we know that. Knowing that is helpful. So, this wall. Or this column's openings we have to talk about. There are two openings in this column. They have to be drawn somewhere. They can't be adjacent to each other because of the way this is shaped. So, is this valid though? Yes. I think this is probably also valid. So yeah, we don't actually know anything about where those two are, but we're close to knowing something. We have a lot of information to work with at the very least. Okay, I guess we know that the two open spaces in this row are not adjacent to each other, right? No, they can't be. So we know that's a wall. And if this column has two more walls in it, they can't be here because that would create this big 2x3. So if they can't both be here, can one of them be here and the other one not? Is this functional for this area? Well, if this is the case, then that makes that the case. And then you had to put wall here. This totally doesn't work. And this doesn't work. So I think what we know then is that these two are both open, which gives us that. And necessarily this, right? Because these two hallways have to come up separately. I think that's a thing we determined. And that would mean that this is the case. So then we have one of these situations. That's open. That means that's wall. Which means... what else does it mean? Both of these are valid locations for a wall. I guess this has to be the wall in this column because it can't have the break. So that gives us that, meaning this is a wall. Yeah. Okay. That is in fact a crack. It was very difficult for me. Like, we knew kind of the general shape of a couple of the rows there with the ability to sort of like slide the breaks and walls one way or another. We knew kind of what the spacing was. It was very hard for me to imagine this part. I just didn't feel like I had enough information yet. So I think that's a full hour of Dungeons and Diagrams in which I only solved 5 puzzles. At this point, I feel like let's just go to the end of it, right? Let's just ride it all the way down, and then we will have some fun stuff to read. So that's going to be it for us for today, for right now, and thank you all so much for watching. When you come back next time, we are continuing to push. We're just going to finish this game, and we're going to get to the other stuff afterward, and we'll see you then.